A 1.5-inch scale Allchin Royal Chester traction engine renovation. This is part 4. With the wheels removed, I can now access the winch drum in order to clean and lubricate the differential gear. There's a winch fitted to this traction engine, and the winch drum is free to rotate around the differential gear. By moving the lever at the top right-hand side of the unit, you can engage or disengage the winch drum from the differential gear. In practice, you would disengage the winch drum and then pull out the winch cable, and when you're ready to wind it back in, just engage the lever to lock it to the differential. It's fairly important to put chocks under the wheels before you do this. On my large traction engine, it has drive pins at each side, and by pulling these out you can entirely disengage the wheels so they can't turn at all. But you do of course still need to chock the wheels, because otherwise, if you were pulling something heavy, you'd end up pulling the traction engine back towards what you were pulling. If you see what I mean. Anyway, back to the differential. It's in very good order, hardly worn at all. This traction engine has been steamed, but I don't really think it's done much ground running. I'm continuing with the cleaning on this side of the engine, and I'm using the same pastry brush with a very small amount of carbusonic carburetor cleaner liquid on it. I'm being very careful because I do not wish to damage or remove the paint. In this clip, I'm cleaning the locking mechanism and the winch drum. The winch drum is a nice easy fit on the main drive gear, and it will need some lubrication. When I turned the wheels by hand, the differential was working, but it was quite stiff. Whatever oil or grease was originally applied to this differential, it's long since gone. The parts are a good fit, quite accurately made. Removal and the subsequent refit was very easy to do. And the way the crown wheel engages with the planetary gears is very good indeed. I'm going to give these parts a thorough clean with some carbusonic liquid, and then as I refit the parts I will lubricate them. This carbusonic liquid is very strong if you use it neat. I dipped the pastry brush into the liquid and sat that on the table, and I repeatedly touched the toothbrush on the pastry brush to soak up some carbusonic liquid. And as you can clearly see in this clip, it's absolutely tearing through the grease and grime. In no time at all, the crown wheel was very clean indeed. There isn't any sort of a warning on the bottle of carbusonic liquid about touching it, but just as a matter of common sense, I'm keeping as much of this off my skin as possible. As I'm cleaning the outer drive gear, you can get a closer look at the differential. For the cleaning of the guard around the gear, which is painted, I'm basically using the brush almost dry. I do not wish to accidentally damage any of the lining on this engine because it's been done to an extremely high standard. There is slight damage to most of the paintwork here and there, but there's a lot of damage on the flywheel. Have a look near the spokes, the paint's really come loose and flaked off. The white paint on the centre boss and round the rim of the flywheel is okay, this will overpaint, but being so badly chipped, the brown paint on the body of the flywheel needs to be removed. And the easiest way to do this is to use the point of a Stanley knife blade. I've put a cloth behind the flywheel to stop the paint chippings flying everywhere, and at this point I would like to say that I am wearing eye protection, but it's getting difficult to breathe with this carrier bag over my head. The sharp blade of the Stanley knife makes short work of the paint. A few particles got through and stuck to the side of the engine. I'll remove these shortly. Once again, with the pastry brush almost dry, I'm cleaning the boiler barrel, and the paintwork on the barrel is very good. When I do touch in the paintwork on the barrel, I'll have to be very careful and try and get a good match. Which reminds me, I do need to do quite a lot of paint repair to the barrel of my large traction engine. Although not in this episode, very shortly I will be repainting the flywheel, so in advance I'm getting rid of any particles of paint still stuck to the metal. I'm fairly sure that the brown paint on the flywheel is the same brown paint that I used when I repainted the frames of my Stirling single locomotive. Although looking at this image I can see that I need to add more brown paint to the horn blocks, at least these two anyway. The paintwork on the strakes of the wheels is terrible, and the paint you see here on the strakes will need to be completely removed. I'll be doing that in the workshop in the next episode. I already have the footage ready to edit and voice over, and I must mention that the job was much more difficult than I thought it was going to be. This is the blowdown valve. I need to remove the paint, so I've dropped it in a pot of cellulose thinners or lacquer thinner, and it shouldn't be too long before I end up with just a nice looking brass part. This afternoon I'm going to West Yorkshire, so I'll call in at Blackgates Engineering because I need to buy some bits and pieces and some paint. I need another tin of this stuff, buffer beam red, a tin of Great Northern Railway chocolate brown, and also whatever colour these wheels are. Buffer beams on locomotives are usually painted in buffer beam red, but occasionally they are painted in vermilion, which is a bit more orangey. I could also do with some more of this stuff. It's called etching primer, which really bites into the metal and provides a stable base for a new coat of paint. When I bought my last 2 bottles of carbisonic liquid, in the box was this. It was a free gift. And no, this is not sponsorship, it's just a sampler tub of silicone grease. I'm going to use this to lubricate the differential. But first I'm going to lubricate the spindles of the planetary gears. And for this I'm using ordinary lubricating oil. I buy this stuff from a company called Hallett Oils, and it's excellent for lubricating steam engine bearings. Please note that this is not steam cylinder oil, that's a bit too thick. I'm applying a generous amount of this silicone grease to the gears, both the planetary gears, the central axle and the crown wheel. Once I've fitted the parts back together in their correct position, I thought it would be a good idea to test the differential. And the easiest way to do this is to run the engine with the gears engaged. And already I can see that it's a lot smoother than it was. I'm trying it in both directions and there's no binding whatsoever. These are the 2 wheels, and I'm about to take them up to the workshop to remove all the paint from each strake. This is going to take a while. I'd like to bid you all farewell and say, as usual, stay safe, stay healthy, thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.